Um, so there may not be no people here. This is new. I don't go on YouTube Live, but I want to start doing so. I was supposed to have did this 2 days ago, but YouTube said you gotta wait 24 hours to go live, and etc. etc. And then yesterday I was on the phone, something important. I had an important phone call, so I wasn't able to do that. So if people are not here, that is fine. I wanted to break some stuff down about spirituality that I feel like people get very confused very so often on. And my biggest issue is so kind of what started for me to start making this YouTube video was for a big reason. So I was on YouTube recently and I saw it was astrologers versus astronomers, right? And excuse me, the Joe picture, I'm crying. Right. Sorry, I had to burp. I had kefir earlier, so like, but the I had to upload a thumbnail too for that because they said like you gotta upload a thumbnail. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Back to the astrologers versus astronomers thing. So off bat, I already knew that it was gonna be some stuff because you already know the astronomers are gonna be like, this ain't real, da 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 da, and the astrologer's gonna be like, this is real. One of the biggest misconceptions that's about astrology is this: we follow the planets for patterns. When we follow the planets for patterns, the patterns aren't always going to be exact. And this is a big key thing that wasn't talked about. I know it wasn't talked about. I didn't even have to watch the full video. I wasn't going to put myself through that. I just wasn't. And first of all, I don't argue astrology with people who don't believe in it. I'm okay with that. Second of all, you have a lot of astrologers that go out of their way in the spiritual community to say my concept of astrology is different from yours because my stuff has math to it. Yours doesn't have math to it. So you have a lot of astrologers who feel like they're better than tarot readers and other stuff because they feel like they have a lot of astronomy backing. Just because your stuff is backed by astronomy doesn't mean they don't still consider it a pseudoscience. But let me get into why astrology cannot always be completely accurate, or it cannot always be a thing how people calculate it like math. The biggest reason why is this: was Pluto in the same position it was 50 years ago? Yes or no? It wasn't. So even if Pluto makes an aspect to another planet the same way it did 50 years ago, does not mean it's going to execute the same way. Let's factor in another couple of things that people don't understand about astrology. A lot of the time, people think that, oh, because this planet was here before, the same thing is going to happen. No, you have to factor in the other planets that are in this position. There is no, you know how they say our birth charts are reflections of who we are, and nobody really has a chart just like us? Even if they're born a couple of minutes after, the degrees are different. So when we're interpreting charts, we're interpreting a chart freshly based off of probably some patterns from the past, but it's not going to be 100% exact because you have to factor in where those planets were in different houses. The houses are changing every hour. That's a big misconception. So when people say they don't really believe in astrology, I don't get mad at it. It's not a thing I want to get mad about because I know people, these are big factors. These are very important factors. You cannot correlate astrology and math. I'm just not going to sit here and have that conversation. It's not the same thing. When you get 2 plus 2, it's always going to be 4. Astrology is a bit different. You're going to get a couple of factors. Even with astronomers, they miss when there was a big old comet or, asteroid trying to head in our direction. They didn't even know it because you cannot predict something that's not very probable. This is probability. We can only determine based off of inferences in the past, just like how we do now. We live in a world of chaos, and astrology just gives us a better view of what this chaos is. Whether or not you do or do not believe in astrology, that is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with not believing in astrology. It's just a lot of people try to justify their own madness, quote unquote, to people who don't want to get it. I'm not in the business of doing that. I do it because it works. It helps me understand myself. Gets to my next point. Spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it, is all based on mnemonics. Mnemonics are basically things, I don't know if I want to say literary devices or not, but it's things that kind of help you remind you of something else. It's kind of like, you know how we learned in school? We're like, okay, if you had 3 apples and they take 2 away, you're given a visual perception of how something is to help you remember what stuff is. Same thing applies to religion and spirituality. Whether or not you believe Jesus was on land, whether or not you believe the Greek gods were on land or not, these mythologies help you understand how the cycle of life happens. If they were talking about John Doe and Jane Doe having an issue, you wouldn't even find it relevant if they told the story. But when you put a deity to it, when you put a power behind it, if you put a personality and you back it by an element, you're tuned in. It's entertaining. We do this. This happens in our reality all day. If we don't care what Jane and John Doe are doing next door. We don't care what Jane and John Doe do when they go fly to a different country. But when you give somebody, a celebrity, a status, what they do, you give them a persona, now you're tuned in. Then when we listen to music, we can hum a tune all day, blah, 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 blah. But when an artist kind of tells a story, or sings a story that reminds us of something we're going through, we find relatability, and then we create a quote-unquote attachment to that artist through that. I don't believe nothing that's been westernized, whitewashed. We're going to get into that. Things of that nature. So my whole thing about it is this. When we're reading the Bible, when we're reading Greek, even Egyptian mythology and African religion, to an extent, whether or not you want to believe or disbelieve in these cultural significations, to discard these traditions and religions is wrong in itself. Because we always in life are looking to something else to help us understand ourselves. We all look towards things as mirror reflections of ourselves. Some people just happen to adapt that in religions. Cults and everything else, teams that you support, artists you support, people going back and forth about what artist is their faith. It all has a direct correlation to religion, and people actually don't want to break it down because people think that you're giving somebody in hierarchy over God, and that's not true. Us as human beings are always looking for some sort of attachment to help us validate ourselves. When we wear certain things, we're telling people a lot about ourselves through what we wear, or the state of condition of where we are based on how we present ourselves. What we put in our home is a direct correlation of ourselves. When somebody's room is messy, it's a direct correlation of their mental state or how they feel about life. That is just a common thing that happens. What ends up happening is when a select group of people start to believe in one thing, religion, culture, or whatever, people say that that's not real, but they even have their own attachments to life. They just don't see it that way. So I say all that to say this. Spirituality is the same way. Whether you don't want to call it a religion, whether you want to call it a religion, it's a set of beliefs that you follow to help you understand life. Symbolism through Zeus, African deities and stuff like that. And I really don't touch on African deities like that because it's not something that everybody should be adapting to. Just because we're black does not mean we should be adapting certain cultures and certain African deities because there's initiations that need to happen compared to the other religions that are, I would say, even Egyptian mythology has a set, like Kemet has a lot of things where you have to be initiated into certain things. So like Greek mythology and stuff like that has a better or looser interpretation. So when you see me referencing European stuff, it's because it's more well known and it has less to do with initiations and stuff like that. So when we're talking about these, we're talking in mnemonics. Zeus and Hera, I'm pretty sure. I know I'm going through a lot of names, so I'm going to get confused at some point because I know a lot, and sometimes my brain is like rapid fire. Zeus and Hera, they got into it. What with their story, you probably more than likely know somebody that goes through that exact same thing. They get together. Zeus had side pieces. We see that in every single woman that's with a man. Almost every single woman that's with a man is going through infidelity. What about their story is so much different than our human life? That is because the people that were working this mythology, whether or not you believe they were here or not, it translates into real life. When you learn about their story, their background, the elements that they're correlated to, it can help you figure out a lot. That's why you're going through infidelity, why you commit infidelity, why you do certain things. The problem is we separate ourselves from God and gods and goddesses so much to a point that we feel like we accept less. The problem is a lot of religions, and what people don't know about certain religions is that you are told you are reflections of these gods. They did not necessarily worship these gods, not all of them, and not every religion did, but they saw them as people that they knew and looked up to. Kind of like the modern day celebrity. When people say celebrities ain't God, you're kind of, sort of creating a falsity there. It's not to say you should worship these people. Right, and a lot of people worship those deities. Yeah, and do you see how celebrity worship is kind of like how they worship God? That's because that's what was happening even back then. It was a lot of people, my theory, a lot of people they looking up, they have created an image. Who's to say 2,000 years from now they're not going to look at Beyonce as a deity, a walking deity, Michael as a walking deity? Who's to say that these celebrities are not being reincarnated as gods? Why do you think they coincidentally take on some of these deities' energy? Why does Zeus's story seem very similar to Jay-Z's story? And why does Beyonce and Jay-Z's story replicate Zeus and Hera? And they happen to be at the highest peak of black celebrity and celebrity in the industry in the world. Right. Worshipping Beyonce for beauty. People want to be Beyonce. People see Beyonce as why do we think of Beyonce now as an adjective? When you say be Beyonce, like that's literally become an adjective. And people still think that celebrity worship is different from how we worship deities. I don't worship any celebrities. I look up to them. My relationship with deities is probably a bit different than a lot of people. I'm not going to make a celebrity altar. But my whole point is to the quote-unquote common mind, these people are huge. And that's never not going to be a thing. We can all die right now, and it's always going to be an occurrence because we always look to something higher to help us understand ourselves. We always separate from, Beyonce internet. Come on. It's happening. It's just a reiteration. Like I said, 1,000 years from now, they're all probably going to look at this stuff like these were gods. Why do you think? Check out cartoons. You know how the cartoon where, okay, I'm gonna give like a couple examples. Remember when SpongeBob became like he went jellyfishing and he got frozen or stuck in this mud or something, and he woke up in time and they literally had him as stone figures and they were all worshiping him as a stone god because of his preservation and stuff like that, and there was nothing else out there to help them understand that they're alive. God's help us understand that we're alive to this day. And those jellyfish, and I think they were jellyfish, help them remind them that they're here and there's something other than them out there that probably created the universe. Give you another example. I watched Rick and Morty, and that's a free episode on YouTube. Rick and Morty had a thing where Morty kept going back in time because he wanted to get some wine. What he kept doing was every time he went back, time was progressing a lot faster in that time than there. Give you an example. He ended up creating evil instead. So this is kind of like the flip side. So he would get the wine. He accidentally brought one of the people on that timeline back to where he was. So when he got sent back, his kids were like, where were you? Mom died. Da-da-da-da-da. He created a hatred because he said this person with the technology was creating this paradigm. It was to a point that these peoples created wars waiting for him to come back. And a lot of people did not believe that Morty was a thing. They said, y'all made it up. It wasn't real. So when Morty came back, it's kind of like when we say the gods are returning. When Morty came back, they were like, oh, this is real. And this is probably due to revelations people have, and you could call it psychosis or whatever. People have revelations that God is coming back. It's probably somewhat true. So when Morty came back, they were like, oh my gosh, he is real. So these species have built their lives over taking down Morty. Built their whole lives and probably created narratives that had to do with just Morty just getting wine because he wanted to impress a girl that he liked this whole show. And him trying to impress. So they ended up going to war and all this other stuff, jumping timelines, going to war with these species, all because one time Morty took somebody over to the next and put him back, and they said that he was a deadbeat dad and he avenged something because of what Morty didn't even know he did. That's also called the butterfly effect. So what we worship and what we pay attention to is usually just reflections of ourselves. People don't realize that we timeline jump every single day. We have the theory of parallel universes. Right? The theory of the Bible is the greatest story ever told, because a lot of religions that have the same story with a different, exactly. Everything is all one the same. It's just different names. We don't even know. They say that's his name is God, but they say God don't even have a name. We don't even have a word for name God. There's God is shown by symbols or a set of letters that can't be pronounced. There's a lot of things. And onto the sense of timeline jumping, I'm only bringing up timeline jumping because astronomers bring up parallel universes. Something else that that was very interesting to me that kind of revelates that. I don't want to speak too much on this because I don't have enough conceptualization to really bring it forward. So I'm not going to explore this too much. I might return to this in another live. But they said that when they try to look at other planets, they're so light years away, we only see it in a past tense. So that's kind of like similar to me from what I'm seeing to Rick and Morty timeline jumping, how everything was happening quicker over there because he was in a different timeline, whereas it's actually going on his side a lot slower than what they're perceiving it as. So when we're even looking, I remember correlating it to something else. We live our past, present, and our future lives are being lived at the same time. That rocked my world, and I still have yet to fully explore it, but it kind of is apply how we're in our present time, but when we see a different planet light years away, it looks as though it's in the past, even though we're probably living in the present timeline. That's because timelines intermingle. There really is no separation. And when you watch Neon Genesis Evangelion, when you watch certain shows and certain movies, they all talk about timeline bending. Neon Genesis and Siddhartha, the ending of Siddhartha, I want y'all to read the book called Siddhartha. The ending of Siddhartha in the show and the ending of Neon Genesis, when they talked about that project instrumentality, there are two key similarities. And if I tell the ending, it's not necessarily going to spoil the show for you, right? They can live other manifestations in their present time just by mindset. Exactly. Mindset create things. Now, chaos comes into factor because chaos is something that's really out of our control. But it's how you kind of control your present, what you have now, and I always tell people that's what matters. Instrumentality, though, and Siddhartha are very similar. At the end of Siddhartha, a string of this stuff happened. The ending may have confused some, but it meant everything to me. You know how they say everything is connected? That's what it was. So it was kind of like, while this was happening, while there was a murder here, life was giving birth here, all in this conundrum Siddhartha was seeing. Instrumentality, everything was happening at the same time. Somebody was in a relationship here. There was somebody here. There was somebody there. Everything was just blending in to itself. That's what instrumentality was. Everything becoming one. If y'all want me to do a Neon Genesis breakdown, I would love to do it. I haven't done it because I tried to go on Clubhouse with it, and it just did not go very well, unfortunately, because I think it was because nobody showed up, and I felt really bad. It made me really sad. But I want to talk about it. I'm now on YouTube Live. I love this. I can save the videos. Y'all can have it. But that's also a big factor as to why does it go hand in hand with reincarnation. It surely can. And this is why. Infinity, right? You see this drawing where somebody drew infinity and one half was like a baby being born until death on the other side. 8 represents the Capricorn symbol, or 8 represents Capricorn, and that's very interesting because when you draw 8 like this, Capricorn and Saturn represents time, and it looks like an hourglass when you do this. So when we're talking about even reincarnation and stuff like that, we are talking about remnants of our energy. It could be a remnant of energy when we were stars, how we were interacting with the stars. And also when we're talking about the 4D, people see this 4D. I couldn't understand 4D until I got into spirituality. Then I realized there's something outside and beyond us that's looking over us. It's kind of like when you draw, you know how you see when people, ants are naturally, I think they said they're naturally 2D animals. So when you draw a line in front of them, they see it as a wall, right? Us as 3D buildings or 3D beings, when we're looking at blockages, they're spiritual blockages. You mean to tell me, when we talk about blockages, we don't mean there's a wall right in front of us. We're literally talking about an energy that is causing a blockage. It's just the problem is, the quote-unquote problem is, because there's no math for it, we discard it. We discard this all the time. We don't even look to seek this stuff because we think all this stuff, all this material stuff, all this physical stuff, that's all there is to it, and that's very dumb. You mean to tell me there's dimensions and this is the only dimension we have where we're just living and we just need to keep using 3D stuff to fix problems? Imagine if ants had consciousness and knew about the 3D. What would they build from that? If other beings had a consciousness like ours, what could they have built from that? There is no limit to that, and that's what makes things infinite, because we live lifetimes to just discover. Now, I did a meditation, I think 1 or 2 years ago. My biggest is like asking your ancestors to clear your blockages when they can see exactly. That's why I say your ancestors are not necessarily far away from you. They're right where they need to be. They're actually closer to you than you think. They're actually closer to you now than they was across country. You don't think so because there's a dimension of separation, but they're really here. And they're close to us to help us see things that they couldn't even see when they were alive. So there's a blessing in disguise. So never think of them being gone. They're still here. What I was in a meditation that I had, I realized maybe, and this is just me, the reason why we're here today is to create. That may be insignificant, but trying to find so many layers to justify existence is going backwards. Now, trying to look at the possibilities of what life can become is a better way of looking at life. And it's such a beautiful way of looking at it because you're not always, there's not this grand thing. Even for me, trying to conceptualize something bigger than myself takes away from what I can do right now. Something can be bigger for myself and I would love to experience it. The good, the healthy, something that's healthy that's bigger than me. That's fine. I'm just here to have fun. I'm here to discover. I'm here to live life. I'm here to, it could be important to me. Whatever I find important. If you want to play video games, if you want to play video games and sleep all day, why not? Why not? Why not do that stuff? Why does everything have to be so deep? Why do we have to make everything so deep? Now, the reason why I'm into mythology, because it's fun. I enjoy reading the sacred texts and helping me make connections to myself. We all seek that in some way. When athletes and stuff, they want to push their limits. They want to know what their body can do. They self-identify with the thing or the sport that they play. We all do this in some way. It goes back to the deities. Some of us just connect with deities and don't even know it. And that's not even our line of practice, is reading mythology. But it's all to say that nothing is necessarily a new concept. Nothing is necessarily old either. It's all just about, we all reinvent the wheel. But the problem is when we discard this stuff and do the very thing we said wasn't real. We become hypocrites in some way. That's why a lot of people struggle with what they've been taught, like sleeping all day is lazy and 9 to 5. Exactly. Because I know for me, I had to kind of break down what rest was to me, because I thought that, resting was lazy. But we create our reality. Resting was lazy. If people think my accomplishments in life and me doing astrology is mad, me thinking about just my astrology and me doing tarot and stuff, they think that's madness. That's fine. I enjoy what I do. I really do. What do you feel like? I don't know because we said so much. I know for me, if people find that madness, I kind of feel bad. But now that I think about it, I'm living my life. I'm helping people understand what they want to do. I think my spirituality in my career, it's my career, but it helped me explore other stuff. I'm getting back into math, like I'm learning trigonometry. Into languages, and my perception of these concepts now are a lot different before spirituality. Before spirituality, I just thought it was something to do, but now I'm realizing everything is interconnected into each other. I could do anything I want. I love learning. Spirituality helped me realize I love learning and I can learn anything I want to learn. If I want to, experiment with something, I can learn this concept and I can learn it fast because I don't think there's a limit to myself. I don't see myself, I have to describe who I am. My name is Tay. My name is Tay. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't have to be a description. I'm me and I do what I want. There is no limits to that. I'm trying to stop feeling lazy. Right. Ooh, I didn't see this. Can I scroll? Okay, I can. I'm sorry. I have to start feeling lazy for having a 9 to 5 and taking my practice more serious. You can take your practice more serious, but do it for you. This is the problem that most people have. We see things that we need to do as work. No, this is an experience that we're having. This is supposed to be an all thought or an all mental immersive experience. Once we start looking at things that we're doing as experience, where we take our time and we just feel things out and we connect to it emotionally, mentally, that's when the results become more beneficial. A lot of the times when we even think about people that are very talented, right? When we think of people who are super duper talented, it's because they were mentally and emotionally invested. They didn't care about being perfect. They just cared about being in the moment and being present. So that's what really presence is all about. It's being in the moment and creating something out of these moments. Thank you. I'm glad I'm able to help. That's what I want people to unlock. They can even do what I do. Like, I don't see myself as this special being that I just put so much. I was so mentally, emotionally, and physically connected to my work that it became what it was. I know this much about astrology because I became drowned in it. I created some mental expectations, but when I dropped the mental expectation and just dove in, that's when I became great. It wasn't about knowing every single little thing about the astrology or thinking I have to know everything word by word off of what somebody else learned from it for me to learn. So that's why I said books are nice as references, but you create your own correlation with what you learn. That's kind of what helped me ease into Vedic because I started to see patterns with who had this sign. What can I take away from this sign from what people have said, but what more is it to there that I also noticed that these people that have the same sign or same nakshatra, that's what created the understanding for me. I'm not somebody who thinks that I'm very special for this. It's what makes this special for me is not many people go the same route or come to the same conclusions. Everybody's great in their own right. I just don't see a limit in what I can do. I do everything because I'm, like I say in my personal IG, I'm being all that I can because I am all that can be. That's not cocky. I myself, I can't be anybody but me. I'm all that can be. I'm here. I'm complete. This is who I am. This is who I've become. I'm accepting of myself. There's nothing about me that I cannot accept about myself unless I'm taking accountability for something I feel that I'm not, or something brought out an energy of me that needs to be healed. Because even when some people say that stuff that's not you, it is kind of you in a way. And it's not to say that you should even identify with your toxicity and to say that you are a toxic person. You should accept your toxicity. How do you heal from that? How do you face those fears and what makes you toxic from fear, or what makes you feel less than from fear, or what makes you scared from fear. How do you heal those fears so you can become a better person? That's what the conversation should be. Not necessarily thinking you have to accept your fate or accept fear as a basis for not being who you are. That's really what becomes the conclusion. Sorry, I'm gonna kind of like I'm trying to understand these controls and stuff. This is very interesting. But anyway, anybody have any questions? I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest, and stuff like that. And maybe I'm gonna cover something else. I know I was supposed to talk about like how like men in the spiritual community, stuff like that. Let's talk about it. Might as well. We're here. So even I'll say with men in the spiritual community, let me start by this. Humans in general have this thing where they think their career or what they like to do absolves them from toxicity. Now that we're talking about toxicity, and it doesn't. Men are still going to continue to be themselves no matter how much crystals you give them, how many crystals they say they have, how much spiritual knowledge they have. Just because you know better don't mean you're going to do better. We need to keep that in mind, right? So when a lot of spiritual men, you'll see them, you'll be like, they're spiritual, why are they acting like this? They can identify with women all the time, but most of the time, my experience, again, I'm not saying no names, I've been in the spiritual community since I was 17. I've been around grown spiritual men, so I know a lot of things about what they do and how they act. A lot of them will identify with women and praise women all day, but sometimes it becomes from an air of objectification. Let me tell you why. The common man are very attracted to a woman's physique, right? You have a lot of other men who are spiritual who are not necessarily, they'll be attracted to you physically. Yeah, they'll be attracted to you physically, but they'll layer that with their spiritual understanding and will see you as something who is, they'll say the divine feminine, the divine woman, the woman who birthed us. That's kind of their way of, like, I guess, their way of flirting. In a way, they'll flirt without thinking they're flirting. They're honoring you, but they're degrading you at the same time, because a lot of the time when you talk to these spiritual men, it comes out. And that's because, again, they'll layer, it's like putting makeup over acne. You could take the makeup off and the acne's still gonna be there. No matter how much you try to conceal it, the basis is all the same. You can add big words to it, and the bottom line is still, the end result and the bottom line of everything is still gonna be the bottom line. The foundation, if you could build a nice building, but if the foundation is weak, it's gonna crumble, regardless. You could build anything you want on top of it, it will stay what it was. And that's what ends up happening. So they over-identify with other things. Right. So they'll over-identify with other things, but as long as they're not healing the actual issues, they will continue to be themselves. So I need a lot of women to stop falling for the men who are just spiritual. What are they showing you based off of what they do, and what layers are they unpacking within themselves that's misogyny? Men have a certain level, some men, most men, 99% of men, have a level of misogyny within them. They want to keep blaming the woman, but they'll try to dress it up like, let me give you an example. The woman is the bearer of the divine womb. And because they are the divine womb, they create their own reality, us men. So this is what men will do, right? A man will lessen themselves, right? And be like, us men, they'll agree with the woman and be like, us men are dumb. Since us men are dumb, we're not going to take accountability for what we do. We're going to tell y'all know more than us and you're better than us. So when I mess up, I don't need to take accountability because you as the woman should have known and should heal me from your womb. A lot of them, and that person just told you in so many words, they got mommy issues too. If a man keeps referring to your womb, your creation, to an extent, they have mommy issues. They have mommy issues. The divine woman created all of us. I come from a woman. That is your mom. These women are not your mom. They're your co-creators. You're not seeing her as a co-creator. You should put her on a pedestal. Cool. But when you lower yourself, but you're also trying to give yourself a pedestal, there's a disconnect here that you don't want people to know about yourself. Get what I'm saying? So a lot of them, they'll be like, oh, I'm a king, but I'm going to lower myself when it comes to a woman. That doesn't make sense, because now what you're doing is when that divide happens, you're creating a flexibility of when you want to be stupid and when you want to be smart. So you manipulate the woman thinking she has to be at a hierarchy all the time to always have to deal with you, regardless of where your slippery slope is. You want to be versatile. You want to be now versatile in your energy so you can dodge away from when you're higher and you've been acting in a lower self. You'll go low to tell everybody, oh, well, I'm stupid. But then when you're acting actually stupid and people say you're higher than that, you'll flexate and create all this other stuff to say that you are in the wrong. Regardless of stature, regardless of where you are, wrong is wrong. It's about meeting her. If you think of her as high, you need to stay here and take accountability. If you see her as low and you're low, you have no right to speak on her and what she does. And I need women to understand the paradigm. It doesn't matter where you are as a woman. A man will always flexate and take accountability, or not take accountability for himself, because he could be wherever and do whatever he wants, but he could be a king and a deadbeat at the same time to him. That's okay. It's okay for him to be a hypocrite. But once he puts you on a pedestal and you agree with that, he's always going to target you as a woman. Even if you're down here, he's always going to see you up here. So when you make mistakes, he's going to be like, well, you're supposed to be up here anyway with me. But the difference is, us women, we take accountability no matter where we see ourselves. Men don't. All of us can be here and up here. So the men are right on that regard. However, what they get messed up is the lack of accountability based on where they are when they stoop to their lower selves. That's what becomes the issue. And they use their flexibility to take and run away from their own accountability. That's what I'm basically telling y'all. And they do this. They manipulate you. They'll even manipulate you sensually. They do it all the time. I want to co-create with this woman, this woman. I want to procreate with her. Basically, he's just telling you in so many words, I want to conquer your body. A lot of these men will have kids with you to conquer you. They'll do it to conquer you. Like they try to conquer everything else in life. They see women as property that they must fertilize to grow things, to feel like they're doing something when they're not doing very much. I understand these paradigms. A man couldn't trap me with a child. And that's because I had to observe my generation. Again, ask your grandma, ask your great-grandma if she's still alive, ask your mama, ask them all their experience. They're not very much different from yours. I don't care if you beefing with them. I don't care if you beefing with your mama. There's probably some stuff that she does that you do. And it's not to say that you are a bad person, but it's to say no matter how, my mom and her mom don't get along. But there actually was some, when I talked to my aunt, which is my mom's sister, there was some things that even she said, oh, my sister used to do this, but then I realized when I used to do that. It's not to say that you're a bad person, and it's not to say that absolves them from the accountability of what they did. But sometimes you're going to realize you have to break the generational curse that comes with that. That's my whole point. Okay, they're a bad person. How are you healing? How are you healing? Don't run away from the healing. Because once you start understanding the healing, when a man comes to you, you already know he ain't even on it. No matter what he does, no matter how much he celebrates you in the beginning, you know he not on what he on. And I'm not going to get mad at women. Sometimes I get mad at women because they'll tell me certain things and they were clear red flags and they just didn't pay attention. Those are the ones I get mad at. I don't get mad at the ones that switch up or get mad at the ones who found out that man switched up. However, sometimes you'll just know in your core when somebody is just not it. The ones that switch up, I understand. I completely understand. Deal with your healing. Do your healing. You're not going to be able to predict everything. I'm not going to be able to predict everything. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I never have relationship issues. There's a lot of stuff that I'm working on behind the scenes and taking care of myself. However, I heal that, and I even the small stuff. Like people say, oh, women break up with men over petty stuff. Oh, he didn't want to get me that bad. He got me the opposite of what he wanted. He just told you who he was as a man. If you said you wanted this and he got you the direct opposite, knowing everything, he just told you how he was going to treat you in the relationship. Period. When he said, I don't have time for this, he just told you, I'm not making time for you. He'll make time for what he wants to. When he said he busy, but he doing other stuff, he just told you who he was. And that sometimes becomes a problem. So sometimes it don't even be a switch up. It be stuff that you said, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Little things make big issues. One crack in the wall make the whole building come down. It'll be one last straw that breaks the camel's back. It'd be that one grain of salt that just tumbles everything through the weight. Everything has a cause. It's kind of like how we say, like, oh, when we get home after a bad day at work and we drop our keys and we start crying, it wasn't about the keys. It was about all the stuff that happened that just caused this one moment to be big. Pay attention to the little stuff people say and little stuff they do. I pay attention to everything. And you may call it crazy. You may even call me crazy. But I keep mental note of it. So when we have problems that develop, I'll be like, hey, I remember even in the beginning you told me this, and I'm noticing little stuff about you that are creating big issues. Doing it in a small scale, imagine what they're going to do on a large scale. It's not to say that we all don't have problems. We have little things about us that we do that lets people know who we are. But it's a matter of even people that are, you have people that are aware of it and don't care, but the ones that are, just work on it. And when men try to sensually, like I said, try to come on to you and stuff like that, a lot of them are just the spiritual men. A lot of them are just the same as the common man that likes to sleep around. You just have men that are like that. They're just like that. What do you know what I'm saying? What is it, that's different from what he's doing? It's just like I said, it's layers, but the bottom line is going to be the same. But that's really it. If y'all have any questions, let me check my live for any questions. Even and I'll say, even with us growing up, we've dealt with boys that are still acting the way they are to this day. Pay attention. I'm gonna teach my daughter this stuff. Pay attention to what these boys are telling you, because most of the time they don't ever grow up. The common person never really is self-aware, and I have to realize that. And it's not to put myself at a hierarchy, but I had to learn how to talk to people. Even with my clients, I have to learn to talk to people who don't understand or aren't self-aware. You do have to talk to them a certain way. Don't talk to them stupid, but you have to talk to them a certain way for them to understand what you're asking them. Because of my higher understanding, I say less. 2, my speech has become more simple. Reason being is because I don't have to layer a whole bunch of big words to validate my knowledge. It's about how you approach that. A real teacher knows how to approach anybody and teach them the same stuff. Now, the ones that aren't getting it, they just sometimes don't even want to learn it, and they won't tell you that. How much are your general readings? My general readings, if you go to Taisoleil.com, I have it under numerology, tarot, and astrology services. So usually my tarot readings run for 100 for 30 minutes. And that's because of my expertise in the field, and how I'm able to kind of reduce complexities into one form, and the experience I have and the people I've worked with that I don't be naming. If you know, you know. Some people do know who I've worked with, etc., etc. Or it's one person. But if you know, like I say, if you know, you know. People I have contact with, if you know, you know. Stuff like that. So like I said, everything, like I said, bottom line is, anything is possible. Anything is possible. You got this. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt what you do. Don't doubt your capabilities. Don't doubt your mind. Don't doubt what you see. Sometimes, even if you are going crazy, don't expect your price. That's your price. I just talk for anybody who watching the live. I guess not necessarily for you. And I'm not trying to explain anything. But you're right. Let me just stop. But like I said, don't let nobody doubt your mind. Even if you are going crazy, just know that there's probably some healing that you need to have. Because sometimes I know when I'm tripping, I'm like, oh, nah. I need to, even recently, I cried so much. Both of my diaphragms were just erratic. I had to be like, yo, let me slow down. Let me just slow down. Because it's not anybody else. Now it's becoming a me thing. I'm fighting with myself. Sometimes you got to know when you're fighting with yourself and it's not everybody else. And sometimes probably it is a piece of them. But I bet you'll be able to approach it better when you understand why you feel and how you feel. That's the main takeaway of this. All roads, most times, all those roads will lead back to self. Sometimes it's not about even trying to understand chaos. It's how you deal. Like I said in the beginning, how you deal with chaos is important. Because everybody thinks you attract everything. No, you don't. Chaos happens for a reason. The law of chaos exists for a reason. It's because random shit happens to where you don't even know where that's coming from. You didn't attract that. Your intrusive thoughts. You don't attract that. Intrusive thoughts, we could break that down right now. Intrusive thoughts are not you manifesting anything. That is a part of the bottom the topic of chaos. It's chaotic. Your mind is in chaos right now. It's about how you take control of the chaos, how you deal with the chaos when you're approached with it. It's how you deal with it. Chaos is not something you necessarily manifest unless you're intentionally and you believe in chaos, and that's just, or in a certain set of chaos for this to happen. But if you don't believe in that and it fears you and it brings you pain, highly doubt you're manifesting that. You're not manifesting that. But it's about how you deal with the chaos and how you keep certain things away from you. Or if you're met with chaos, how do you heal from it? Because you can still be able to live. There's still a way for you to live your life and have control over it. And it's not even to say that every situation is going to be a easy way to heal. That's not true. It might take you years to heal from some stuff. That is okay. Whoa, I saw something fly by that was white. That was kind of wild. Uh-oh. There's things that you may not understand, or there's some things that may take you lifetimes to understand. That is okay. I'm here to tell y'all that's okay. You're not here to be perfect. You're just here to live, okay? Just live. Just find ways to live. I'm not saying think optimistically or discard your feelings. Feel those feelings. Just don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt people around you that didn't do nothing to you. Somebody coming you with some wild energy, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to ever return that. But other than that, I try to heal for me. That's all, though. I think I'm going to leave off on this note. Whatever. I'll run some stuff down. So I have a Patreon that I do transits and stuff for. I have my tarot and astrology booking. Thank you for being here. I'm glad I was able to help. I have my tarot and astrology and numerology booking on my site, Taisoleil. Link will be in the description of this live anyway. All my socials are here. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook too. I should start tagging my Facebook because I do be on Facebook sometimes. Sometimes it be randomness that I be talking about, but sometimes it's just talking about my random thoughts that I don't make into articles or don't need to be articles. I have to post about it. It's pretty tame. I don't post very often. Or if I do, it's for that 1 or 2 days and I'm like, you won't hear from me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share this video. Let people know I was on. Share it to your Instagram story. Share it on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but share it on Twitter. Let people know I exist. That's how you keep something alive, is you keep showing it, put that fire energy and spread the word, spread the passion, spread the love. I hope everybody has a good night. Take care of yourself. Happy November. 2020, 2022 is coming up. Hopefully it's good. And yeah, bye y'all. That's my chair creaking.